Man, get up here in the Zoloft to get your head right.
Hi there, and welcome to the Zoloft. So, the White House Chief of Staff, John Kelly, says the Civil War was due to lack of compromise, and Robert E. Lee was an honorable man. He was an honorable man. Shut up. And a sexy man, too. Shut up! Shut up! Man, I am so sick of so-called Republicans and so-called conservatives. Now, I got my right-wing patriots who still hang out with me, and I love y'all, but you know who I'm talking about. Too many who have a very shallow grasp of what it is to be a Republican. Frederick Douglass knew what it meant to be a dyed-in-the-wool Republican. And what Freddie D was saying when he said he was a dyed-in-the-wool Republican is that he was saying he was a Republican to the core before the fabric of the Republican Party was even woven together. And that his grip on it won't fade. We are so sadly lacking Frederick Douglass Republicans today. Republicans today are like, I'm leaving the Republican Party. Y'all get on my nerves, but I'm not leaving. I'm not gonna do the Democrats a favor. And if you vote Republican and you defend the statements of John Kelly concerning the Civil War and Robert E. Lee, well, I gotta say, y'all, that's a disgrace to the country and a disgrace to the Republican Party. And Frederick Douglass, a real Republican, knew more about what it was to be a Republican than anybody alive today. If you could ask Frederick Douglass about this compromise, I don't think he would agree with you. Frederick Douglass, who escaped and bore the scars of the brutality of slavery, who witnessed women being stripped naked and beaten until bloody by those who demanded the so-called right to force other people to be their slaves. People who defend the Confederacy insist that they were just defending their states' rights. States' rights to do what exactly? Let me help you with that. They wanted the so-called right to keep slavery legal. Well, so there was slavery in the North, too. Shut up. Of course there was slavery in the North, because Democrats were in the North too. And Northern Democrats wanted to keep slavery legal just as much as Southern Democrats did. Republicans had slaves too. Oh, really? And when did they have time to own these slaves? The Republican Party had just barely been formed, and the first Republican president was elected in 1860 on the platform to abolish slavery. That is at the foundation of the Republican Party, abolishing slavery. The Civil War occurred, and by 1865, slavery had been abolished. So when did Republicans even have time to be slave owners and traders? The war really wasn't so much between North and South. The war was between abolitionist Republicans and slave-demanding Democrats. And the Honorable Robert E. Lee was a Democrat. And any Republican praising Robert E. Lee as an honorable man is the same thing as a Jew praising the most honorable Nazi. The Confederacy was represented by Democrats that wanted to secede from the Union so the Union wouldn't have any authority to take away their slave-holding interests. Democrats who didn't agree with secession sided with the Union because they hoped that all the states could be involved in the slave trading shebang-a-bang. Lincoln knew how history would play this out, and he knew his enemy quite well. For people today who be trying to say that the war had nothing to do with slavery, check out some of the statements of Lincoln's contemporary enemies. According to them, Lincoln was committing the sin of sacrificing white lives for black freedom. But he had the foresight to know how the losers would spin it. He knew the Democrats would try to downplay the war against slavery and play it up as Northern aggression against Southern state sovereignty. And the North was all jealous about the money that they were making in the South, off of forced free labor, mind you. So Lincoln made the statement that every neo-Confederate and liberal will try to bring up. You know that statement about Lincoln not caring about freeing the slaves? Losers would remember that quote and overlook the very platform he ran on to abolish slavery. But the aforementioned quote itself lets you know that slavery was a core issue of the war. And I am as sick of Republicans who tolerate people who defend the Confederacy and its monuments and symbols as I am of the people who wave around the Confederate flag. It ain't a lot of Republicans, but it don't take a lot for Democrats to spin it to make it look like it is. These people be talking about Hillary for prison and Democrats are a bunch of commies and Democrats are this and Democrats are that while you're waving around their flag. Nice going. Oh, but you're too smart for Democrats. You're an individual and you're a rebel and you think for yourself. Meanwhile, you're waving around the Democrat flag thinking they haven't gotten into your head. Tell me how that flag is about heritage and history again. Heritage and history of what? Well, heritage and history, what else? You've been duped into carrying around Democrat ideals thinking you're displaying Southern pride. When really, what you've been waving around is a flag of Democrat shame. Shame, shame. folks be trying to say that slavery had nothing to do with the war. Even when the Democrat represented Confederacy took the liberty to make their own constitution for the Confederate States, which puts in clear language that makes slavery legal to satisfy the pro-slavery population. You know why they did that? Because contrary to those who say that the U.S. Constitution is a pro-slavery document, it isn't. The U.S. Constitution does not permit people making them their slaves. That's why Democrats made another constitution that does permit slavery. And the so-called Honorable Robert E. Lee fought to defend that constitution. So I take serious offense to John Kelly saying that a compromise could have prevented the war. Does a compromise end the war with terrorists? Could you compromise with terrorist organizations like ISIS or Al-Qaeda, for example? Well, the Democrats are of the same mindset because they formed a terrorist organization too. You might have heard of them. You know, the KKK. Because Democrats had a real hissy fit when Republicans told them that they could no longer have white privilege. People who think like John Kelly on this are really screwing things up for us. Things like this is why people don't trust the Republican Party. I've been trying to tell y'all this for years. These people make it easy for the Democrats to wipe their bigoted history on the Republican Party. You got Republican voters out there saying we shouldn't take these monuments and the Confederate flag down because it represents heritage and history. Wrong. Bad argument. And for the record, I don't think any of those things should be taken down. These things shouldn't be removed. They should be allowed to stay up. And they should be marked with a note saying that these are symbols that were created by the Democrat Party. Y'all make it really easy for them to promote the idea that the parties switch sides. And you wonder why people are going nuts in the streets thinking you are the ones who've always been the racist. Or if you insist on waving around that flag, fine, be my guest. But please, do not associate yourself with the Republican Party. That flag has nothing to do with us. If that flag means so much to you, then it should be worth it for you to go ahead and join the party that created it, the Democrats. Stop sabotaging things for us. And for my Southerners, this is not an attack against you. My issue is with Democrats who formed the Confederacy. Please don't confuse the two. Shame, shame.